Well, it's back to our regular scheduled program of Nintendo dropping huge news on random Tuesdays for some reason. And now we finally have a Switch 2 update to a Switch 1 game that was a port of a 3DS game that was a port of a Wii game. It's what we've all been waiting for. No, but seriously, Donkey Kong Country Returns HD has got an update for Switch and Switch 2. Today we're going to go over everything Nintendo told us in that trailer and everything Nintendo didn't show us. The big thing here, of course, is that Dixie Kong is here, and she can fly higher than Diddy Kong, and that's cool. But the big news, of course, is this introduces proper co-op, which is what every fan of this game has been asking for so long. Before this update, the co-op was just really messy, and when, let's say, player 1 jumped on an enemy, when player 2 did the same thing, they just fell through the enemy, and it didn't really make any sense, and it just didn't seem like it was built for co-op, and it was just a late add-on. Even though it did work on the Wii, so who knows what was wrong there, but apparently it's finally fixed. There have been people who have immediately gone to CG cutscenes in the game with Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong to see if they were playing with Donkey Kong and Dixie Kong, if Dixie Kong would be involved in that CG cutscene, and of course she isn't. In fact, you see a little moment where Diddy and Dixie swap for the cutscene, and then Dixie comes back for the actual gameplay post that cutscene. Which, to be honest, I just find hilarious, and did we really expect them to, remake this cutscene for this? I feel like I actually prefer, because of how funny it is, this method, and as usual, people get upset online, but who really cares? Let's just be honest here, it's just cool that we're getting something free. And we also have Turbo Attack, which is new content. This is obviously speedrunning levels, which looks chaotic and is. People online are saying like this is quite glitchy in areas, but I wouldn't really expect anything less. And yeah, of course this game mode is going to be quite unfair, but I feel like that's the brilliance of it. Still, it's new content though, but this does make me beg the question, like, why wasn't this a thing when the game came out? When the game was announced, a lot of people were saying, why is this game coming out yet again? I remember I was in Japan at the time, and in all the Nintendo stores, it was so strange. They had basically Donkey Kong themed everything. Not only were they selling more Donkey Kong themed merch, but you had sort of game stores where you could play the new, well, I say new, but that's the thing, it just felt really weird being in those Nintendo stores, playing such an old game and Nintendo sort of marketing it as a new one, not even like a HD remake, just like, I don't know, just all this show, and then we only get the Turbo Attack mode later. But I mean, it's cool because it's free, but it just feels like something for a game that's been re-released before, something that we should have had since day one, but still it's cool that we have it now. And of course in the trailer, Nintendo do mention that the Switch 2 version of this update will improve graphics and load times, which is really weird in my opinion, because we've just had Animal Crossing and that update you had to pay for to improve graphics, but it came out the same time the bigger update that was free came out. So how come Donkey Kong's graphics are updated for free, but Animal Crossing aren't? It's just, they need to make their mind up. It's becoming really not only confusing but annoying. It's like you're just spinning a wheel whether your Switch 2 update graphics will be free, and it's just a bit silly, and just, they should all be free, right? We can all agree on that, and especially when back to back we have two different games. One update for the visuals and loading times is free, and the other isn't, and it's just not fair. But then again, it's really cool that we're getting this for free, and Nintendo seems to really love their older games right now, and really marketing, older games are getting new updates. It's a really strange move though from Nintendo, right? They just keep marketing this new console as older games but better, and I just can't get my head around it. I want some new games. What this update does do that Nintendo didn't mention at all actually, and this is really important because when this game was announced and trailers were showed off and people got their hands on the game at first, people noticed that even though this was a remake of a remake, whatever, that the graphics actually looked worse than previous editions of this title. There were certain areas in the game where lighting and effects just weren't popping and weren't as colourful or dynamic as they used to be, so that's why the game didn't get as high a score as it did, because if anything, This game was re-released with worse visuals than before. And like I say, Nintendo obviously didn't mention that in the trailer, but a lot of stuff are fixed apparently to huge Donkey Kong fans. I've not seen it for myself, but apparently the big people who are, in love with this game have noticed certain areas in the game they weren't exactly happy with before look a lot better now. But again, it should have been like that in the first place, and older games look better, so it's a little hard to decide, is this good news or just okay news? And then one of the final things the game shows off is Game Share, which by the way, I feel like is a big feature that Nintendo have that they don't talk about either enough or their fans don't talk about enough. And I've already made a video on this, but I still stand by the fact that Nintendo allow this is so anti-Nintendo, it's so pro-consumer that you can game share. I just think it's a great thing people don't talk about enough. Not only is it a great way to lend games to family and friends and stuff like that and play with them, but it's also a great way to test out a game. If a certain game doesn't have a demo, you can game share it. So it's really cool this is coming to Donkey Kong as well. Although Game Share has this really strange thing where your screen isn't full, and the part of the trailer, this Donkey Kong update trailer, where we see Game Share, it's just comically small, especially on the OG Switch. Your screen is like half the size it should be, and it looks like the bezel is this giant barrier between the controls. It just looks so odd, and I don't know why it has to be like this. Again, a lot of stuff with Nintendo is like this, but we're so close to being there, but damn, that screen is tiny. Oh, and if you're still playing Donkey Kong Bonanza and its DLC, that also got an update at the same time, I believe, or is, getting a live event added to it. So that includes new villain statues you can decorate your island with, but I don't remember anyone being that hyped for the DLC for Donkey Kong Bonanza, so I don't know how many people out there care about that stuff. Although it is cool they're still supporting it, to be fair. We haven't seen the same thing with Pokemon Legends EA and that DLC, where's the live events there? I think overall this update feels like a really good piece of news, although I just can't help but feel like a good piece of news that, especially with the Turbo Attack mode and Dixie Kong, stuff that should have been included in the base game that is a remake and re-release of a re-release, that should be included at this point. Effects and visuals shouldn't look worse than they did before. Co-op shouldn't be worse than it was before. And again, maybe this is just me, but I just find it absolutely insane how Animal Crossing, and there's other games as well, like Pikmin, where Pikmin's got a free update, but not a Switch 2 version, and it's all really confusing. And there's no way to tell which game has which update for the Switch 2, and which Switch 2 update is free. And you have these games like Breath of the Wild, where you have to pay for the update, and Animal Crossing that just came out. But, you gotta pay for it because it's upgrading your visuals. But by the way, and again, I made a video on this too, the Animal Crossing update that isn't the Switch 2 update, the free one, does upgrade your visuals on Switch 2 in handheld mode, which they didn't mention. But to upgrade your TV exclusively, again, that Nintendo didn't mention, you have to pay for that Switch 2 update. But the Donkey Kong one, you don't have to pay for the Switch 2 update. It's free to improve your visuals on handheld mode and TV. It's just messy. Yeah, this update's cool, I guess.